This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by Dover Pool.
A swimming pool can be a great place to relax, offer reprieve from the summer heat, or become the perfect location for a birthday party.
But it's not going to be any of those things if you don't get it up and running properly. Delmarva Life Sean Streicher stopped by Dover Pools and found out that a few simple steps now could have your pool looking great all summer long.
Temperatures are on the rise around Delmarva. Pool owners, you know what that means. It's time to open up that swimming hole.
A pool only holds the water, okay? Your filter and your chemicals is what keeps that water clear.
Jim Napolitano with Dover Pools has over 40 years experience taking care of pools. He says whether you have an above ground or in-ground pool, the process of opening it up is very similar. And it all starts with taking off the cover.
They'll try getting that cover off with the water on there. It's dirty, leaves, the cover falls in the pool. Even if they have clean water, it's now dirty.
Once the cover is removed, Jim says check the water level. If it's low, fill it up.
If you don't bring the water level up, we're going to test the water that's been in there all winter, okay? We're going to analyze that. They're going to have to add the water to bring it up to level. Therefore, it's changing the alkalinity, the pH, all the readings. So that's why we want it all mixed up, so we're getting an accurate reading.
We'll talk more about how to get those readings in just a moment. Before we do, Jim says you're going to want to run the filter for at least 24 hours.
Taking all that water, the water they've added, the water that's been in the pool, and circulating it.
Jim says this is a good time to check your filter to make sure it's running properly and is leak-free.
Unfortunately, what happens is a lot of people, they leave their filters outside, and if any water gets in there over the winter, they will come in with a lot of damaged parts.
Jim, when we're checking the filter, what are some of the things we want to look out for?
Make sure your motor's running quiet, make sure the strainer housing isn't cracked, the lid is not leaking on the strainer housing, the Veriflow valve's not leaking if you're on filter, and water's coming out of waste, you've got some issues there.
So basically make sure water's not coming out of anywhere it's not supposed to.
Exactly.
After your water has circulated for 24 hours, it's ready to be tested. While it is possible to test it yourself, Jim recommends leaving it up to the professionals, especially when you first open your pool.
A lot of times they'll come in, they don't really know what they're doing, or they'll come in and ask us what to do, and we'll say, you know, did you bring us some water so we can see where your readings are? And they'll say no. So we really need to know what those readings are, because if something's out of range, if your alkalinity is too low, if your pH is too low or too high, chemicals aren't going to work properly. So that's why we've got to make sure everything is in range, and then we can get them to decide what product they need. And if it's green, we got to find out why it's green. There's different chemicals. If it's metals, then we're going to run a metal remover through it. If it's green from algae, they might have to use a flock or a strong algicide, or we might recommend that they put Endure in there, which is borate, which helps clear up the pools.
Once they know what's wrong with the water, the folks at Dover Pools can recommend ways to fix it.
We want to add about 11 to 12 pounds of calcium to the pool. Chlorine, you know, it's your basic. It's been around for years. There's different ways you can use it. You can put it in a floater. You can put it in an automatic chlorinator. There's also Sustain we carry, which is chlorine, but it's more of a system. Once a week, you're putting your Sustain in your skimmer. Then the Bacquacell is a non-chlorine system where it's all liquids. You have your sanitizer, and you have your shock, and then you have your algicide and your CDX. And that's for customers who are allergic to chlorine. They don't like the smell of the chlorine.
While these systems may have their differences, Jim says they pretty much all do the same thing: kill bacteria in your pool. If you have a saltwater pool, you're also going to want to make sure your salt levels are correct.
When you open up, you're still going to have a good amount of salt in there. You might have to top it off with a little bit of salt.
Once you have good levels, Jim says if you make sure you run your filter daily, keep your pool clean, and keep up with your chemicals, you should be good to go all summer long.
Now, Jim also says if problems should arise later in the summer, just bring them another water sample. They should be able to help you right out.
They should. All right, now that you know how to maintain the pool, you need a space to put all the extra chemicals. And you know, a lot of people think they have more storage than they really do. Need more? Well, have you thought about getting an outdoor shed? Well, today, Angie Hicks of Angie's List compares the kinds and the costs to help you decide. There are basically 3 kinds of sheds: metal, wood, or vinyl. If you have the proper tools and the time to do it, you can build your own using a kit available at a lot of big box stores.
Prefabricated shed could be a good alternative if you're looking for a smaller shed, say up to like 10 by 14 in size. They can be less expensive, but also they may be not as durable as one built on site.
A 120 square foot custom shed will run you around $1,500. An experienced pro will ensure your shed is on a sturdy foundation and built to last in just a matter of hours.
You start with a good floor, because if your floor rots out, the rest of the shed is no good. I mean, I've replaced floors before, but that's a whole big process. And so the best thing to do is to take care of start with the floor, get a good, solid foundation and level, and then build up from there.
Make sure your builder uses treated lumber, galvanized nails, and 25-year shingles. If you plan to add a heat source, you'll need tar paper on the roof.
You want a pre-prime siding or pre-prime boards. When I make the doors, I pre-prime them even before I put them together. Before they're hinged and everything, I paint all the parts to them. So it's all a pre-prime building, and this way if water does and moisture gets in there, it's protected.
Angie also says the materials can make all the difference.
Some people might consider a metal shed, especially if they're looking to just put yard tools out in the yard. But a wood shed is not that much more expensive and is more attractive.
A well-built wood shed will add beauty, functionality, and value to your home. And experts tell Angie's List that stepping up to a vinyl shed for a couple $1,000s more will offer an even better return on investment. But before you get started, you want to be sure to have the proper permission.
If you're considering installing a shed in your yard, you want to first start with your homeowners association if you have one and make sure they're allowed. And then you'll want to also check with the city, county, or township to see if a permit needs to be pulled in order to build a shed.
Now, extras like interior lighting, windows, or painting will cost you more, so be sure to ask about that before you hire. And keep in mind, a well-built shed should easily last 50 years or more.
Alrighty, so from working in the yard to swimming to dinner outdoors with good friends and family, of course, this year, why not switch up the menu a little bit? Up next, we're in the Delmarva Life kitchen, learning to make a Mediterranean mahi-mahi.
But first, it seems like Sean's switching it up on us. We need our second clue in today's Search for Stryker. Sean?
Guys, I'm not switching anything up on you. I'm in the same town I was in earlier, a town whose history began in 1859 when the Delaware Railroad was extended southward. Well, if you still don't know where I am, that's all right. I have one more clue to help you out. Delmarva Life, we'll be right back.